Hey everybody, how we doing? Woo! I'm DeFi Dave, interviewing Michael from CRV. He needs no introduction. How you doing, Michael? How's it going?
Hi, good.
All right, let's get this started. For those that may be unfamiliar with yourself, can you give a brief introduction and what your philosophy of building is? Because you primarily build products for yourself, right?
Yes, pretty much. So, well, I guess just to introduce myself for those who don't know, I started Curve in 2020, and before then I did New Cipher, which is now doing the TBTC, and before that, I actually had an education as a physicist. So I'm using pretty much experimental physics approaches to Curve in some sense. Um, yeah, anyway, and I'm building products for myself because originally idea of Curve, the first idea was the exchange for stablecoins. Appeared because I was a very active user of MakerDAO and I needed to exchange between essentially DAI and USDC at that time. And centralized exchanges couldn't really do a job nearly as good, even for small amounts. So that's why I started Curve. But right now it's quite a bit more than just a stablecoin exchange, although this is still a very, very big fraction of what Curve is doing.
Yeah, exactly. And with all your new products, especially CRV USD, which is 1/10 of the TVL, but the vast majority of the revenue. Can you go into what CRV USD is, how the Llama mechanism works, and why it's been so successful?
Yes, so CRV USD is a CDP, over collateralized stablecoin, and in principle, it's well, in a nutshell, any CDP is where you mint stablecoin by borrowing, and there are also liquidations and stuff like that. But what's interesting is what's so special about CRV USD is this mechanism of soft liquidations. So it works this way that if price of collateral goes down for whatever reason due to market conditions, then the system essentially converts some of your collateral to CRV USD and converts back on the way up. And it does it so efficiently that all of these little market fluctuations, they don't drain too much value from the system. So if you choose very conservative parameters for the loan, which you can, even under liquidation price, you may stay there for like months without getting actually liquidated. And then when price of collateral goes up again, you get your collateral back with the loss of, some maybe a few percent of collateral on these inevitable losses in these conversions back and forth. So essentially, it appears that you can avoid being feared of a dip where you get liquidated and then having maybe your loan forgiven, but you don't have a collateral anymore. So when prices of crypto go up again, you don't have your precious crypto, which is kind of terrifying for me. So and that's why this algorithm was created. Or in addition, it appears that if prices of your collateral do go down and don't come back up, you still can close your position at the bottom because you already appeared to be essentially sold your collateral at higher prices. So, which is also a nice property. It's like a stop loss in some sense. So that's essentially how it works, and many people use it for trading strategies, like when they don't know if crypto is going up or down, but they can leverage, and essentially the whole system works as a stop loss for them, much more efficient than traditional stop losses. So, or they can do this strategy when they can stay under liquidation price for months, and if that becomes necessary, and still be okay. But that, of course, depends on how they configure their loan. And that's both CRV USD and the curve lending product, Llama Land. It uses exactly the same algorithm and actually code.
Yeah, and going to the exchange now, the most volume pairs on Curve have really a minimal amount of CRV rewards, I noticed. So would you consider this liquidity officially sticky? And what does this mean for CRV rewards if the highest revenue is CRV USD anyway?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because I think this appeared with all this restaking narrative, as well as points and things like that, which came both with restaking and Ethena, right? So essentially, the points are very, very good for bootstrapping liquidity, and it doesn't really, doesn't really require CRV emissions. There is also a good point that maybe it is possible to give these points for votes to get actual CRVs for liquidity, but I don't know, mostly projects played giving points directly to liquidity, and that worked. But there is one other thing which I noticed. All these pools, which, you know, with the projects with points, they have a very high trading volume to LTV to TVL ratio. So trading volumes are high, and the APR which goes from trading fees is also high. So some of the pools actually have a natural APR being pretty big, maybe in addition to points, maybe not, but it's all related to these new projects. And that's pretty exciting to see. So it looks like they do have a good natural appeal. Like, even besides points, there are also very big trading fees going on. So that's an interesting thing which I'm observing, and trying to explain it for myself. Like how can it happen that trading volumes are so high in these cryptocurrencies?
Yeah, and going further on exchanges, compared to a few years ago, some of these highest volume pairs are factory pools and they're not base pools. Was this expected, and what are your thoughts on it?
Yes, that's absolutely expected, and this is why we switched to factories, because you don't need to. We just didn't have this mechanism originally, so it was just pools being deployed and accepted to the DAO. So it's a little bit of a convoluted process, but it's obviously easier to make it on self-serve basis, and it was done. And it was just a matter of time that all of the pools become factory pools. So even some of the core pools, like Tree Cryptos, are factory pools, because like factory is just the way to make it easy for people to create new pools.
Yeah, now going to L2s and the proliferation of different L2s and chains, what has been Curve's strategy for deploying there, and what have you noticed in the process?
Yeah, we didn't really push overly too much on L2s after the multi-chain disaster. Well, on L2s we actually did, but not so much on other chains, I would say. So we were doing essentially major L2s like Arbitrum, but didn't make kind of that the main story.
Yeah.
And actually, with Ethereum gas fees being low, it's well, it's probably reasonable. But of
Yeah.
course, L2 narrative is an interesting one. So yeah.
Yeah. And actually, going back, you mentioned Llama in the beginning. Can you go over how it works, how it fits into the Curve ecosystem, and how it compares to other lending markets?
Right. So Llama Land works with exactly the same soft liquidation mechanism as CRV USD. And it allows, well, the only difference is that the supply of CRV USD goes not from minting, but from other people depositing. Right. So the idea is that Llama Land serves a supply sink for CRV USD. This is why Llama Land doesn't have admin fee at all, but the idea is that people depositing CRV USD for other people to borrow will create some some CRV USD held there. So, and because of that, this kind of balances supply and demand side of CRV USD, something which was mentioned in Liquidity Talk. So Llama Land is serving this purpose, but for the user, it's just a lending and borrowing protocol. So people can borrow and enjoy exactly the same soft liquidation mechanism, not necessarily just with major cryptos, but with other cryptos as well. And on the other side, lenders can choose which collateral to give to borrow against. And lenders can choose that by, let's say, by safety preferences. So maybe giving to borrow against Ether is inherently safer than giving to borrow against some essentially lower cap crypto. All markets are isolated, so you essentially, if you give something to borrow against one crypto, it doesn't really affect the other markets. So and vice versa. So unlike Avi, where everything is interconnected, here it's very isolated lending. Maybe it can be seen as a protocol for having some other protocols on top of it. So, for example, it is possible to build a staked CRV USD product which balances between different markets on Llama Land depending on safety preferences. So, but yeah, for user it's the same as CRV USD. So one should definitely check and see where the borrow rate is more preferable, whether is it on Llama Land or is it in CRV USD. For some reason, on Llama Land, borrow rates are lower consistently, which is, I don't know, hard to explain, but that's what it is. Maybe some people who use CRV USD didn't really figure out that Llama Land is essentially the same thing for them.
Yeah, so a year ago, you were at the first Stable Summit, and since then, a lot has happened, to say the least. What has been some of the biggest lessons you learned, and what are you most excited about in the future?
Yeah, so I guess with everything happened, well, one of the lessons is that we probably need to. Well, we figured that before. We need to support safety of infrastructure which we use, and essentially this was done with Viper. So Viper is a very, very safe language right now, and we did have an exploit due to a bug in one of early Viper versions, and after that, Viper was completely refactored and audited multiple times. So I'm pretty sure it's probably for me it looks like the safest language at the moment. But yeah, so it was very good that we and I personally invested in safety of Viper. So right now, pretty confident in that. Another one is with regards to Llamaland, with the huge liquidations recently. It was there was a lot of data obtained on how this system with soft liquidations works in under extreme conditions, and it can allow to introduce maybe further improvements on, let's say, how to determine limits for non-major markets, whether it's just liquidity limits or whether it's something else, and also some interesting data about how CRV USD peg works when big liquidations happen, and how to make all of the markets not really sensitive to CRV USD depegging up or down. So this a lot of good data about that was obtained, and I think will be applied in the nearest future. So I probably will publish some research about that. But yeah, very interesting.
And for the CRV roadmap, what should we look out for in the future?
Well, I think well, there are multiple things. One very important thing is we probably should look at incentivizing supply sinks for CRV USD automatically, because the borrow rates for CRV USD are naturally very high. So DAO is making a lot of returns on that. Sorry. But I think it's important to incentivize the supply sinks for CRV USD so that this system automatically grows. Again, something which relates very well to the liquidity talk half an hour ago. So that's was a good one. And another thing is we can actually do some very good improvements to our crypto pools algorithms. The work is going on right now for that, but it sounds like they can be the crypto pool algorithms can be made work much better, especially for foreign exchange, for, let's say, euro to USD stablecoin swaps. So that's something we are most actively working on at the moment.
Yeah, and now looking at the big picture, where do you see DeFi in a few years, and what will it take to get DeFi to $1 trillion in TVL and beyond?
Yeah, I definitely see it in those TVLs in the future. But it's a good question how exactly we get there. My opinion is that DeFi is very capable to replace the existing financial system, essentially. In which form is a good question, because of course there are some regulations and whatever real world issues. But I think technically it is very capable to do it, and probably will do it, because it solves, it removes a lot of unnecessary intermediaries and might remove a lot of, let's say, a lot of issues which are connected to intermediaries, like political issues. DeFi is very neutral, so it's just a tool which works autonomously. And I think that this is why it actually will replace a lot of, like a big part of traditional financial system. But how exactly it will happen is a good question. Whether it will have some sort of centralized push, or whether it will grow from the wild, from the DeFi we have now. But in any case, it starts with the DeFi we have now. So that's why I'm more excited about DeFi than about anything else in crypto.
Thank you so much, Michael, for joining us.